What's up everybody, this is Danny and iOS 9 beta is out, so I'm going to show you what the best new features are and let's just go ahead and get right into it. The first thing you're going to notice is the brand new wallpaper, and there's only one included with this beta, but I'm sure there'll be plenty more in the future. And when you first try to unlock your phone, you're going to notice that there is a 6-number PIN code that's defaulted instead of the 4, so that's going to give you a little bit of extra security, but you can always use Touch ID and it works perfectly well like it always does. You can get the spotlight search like you always have right from the home screen itself, but if you swipe to the right, you're going to get a lot more suggestions. You're going to get your recent contacts there, some suggestions for apps, some nearby places to eat and maybe to stay, and you're going to see some relevant news here. So this is kind of like Google Now for the iPhone, and you can choose to show more or show less. So search is just getting a little bit smarter here in iOS 9. You can use your voice to search or to ask it some questions like this math problem if you need it, and when you search contacts, you can directly call, FaceTime, or message directly from here, so I think that's pretty convenient. One of the biggest visual changes is to the multitasking tray. You can see it looks a lot different than it did before. It doesn't add any kind of functionality to it at all, for it acts exactly the same, but hopefully they'll add some more things on later on in the future. Battery life is always a hot topic when it comes to smartphones, and in the keynote, Apple stated that iOS 9 would add about 1 hour of use extra to your iPhone, so that's always a welcome plus. The one thing I did notice is that they did add an extra widget here for your battery. So what I like about this is that it's going to show you the battery on your iPhone and any other Bluetooth peripheral that you have hooked up, like your watch or headphones. There is a new feature that should help you get much better battery life, and that is the low power mode. And this is the same thing that most other manufacturers are implementing right now. So I always welcome something that's going to help get at least 2 to 3 extra hours of battery life, as they claimed on the keynote. So let's see how this works. In future betas though, I wish they would put it right here in the control center. It makes a lot of sense to put it here instead of digging all the way into the menus. Notifications here gets a little bit of a tweak. Usually all the notifications are grouped by the app, but you actually have an option to turn that off, so you can actually get the notifications by order, so you'll have a little bit of a timeline. This is exactly what I'm used to from Android phones and different manufacturers, so I definitely welcome this change. iOS 9 is taking it back to the old school. I know a lot of you guys remember the iPad where it had the lock rotation switch, so now it gives you the option to change that side switch to lock rotation, which I think is very helpful here on the iPhone 6 Plus since it likes to rotate quite often, especially when you didn't want it to. So Notes gets a pretty big overall here. I like this because you can make a grocery list now and it's checkable, so you don't have to use a separate app for that. And you can also get in here and draw some silly pictures if you want to, or actually use it for productive reasons. And you have access to your camera or your photo library, so you can use this for storyboarding and for scrapbooking. So I think this could be very productive. And you can also change your title, your heading, your body, and also use bold, or you can underline. You can do that to make your notes look all nice and professional. Anything that is shareable in iOS 9, you can actually share it directly to the notes. So if you're in the market for a product, then you can do your research and congregate it all in the Notes app. Passbook is now just called Wallet. Apple's trying to make it to where you just leave your wallet at home. So your Apple Pay stuff and your store cards are here in Wallet. And the only thing they announced is that all of your reward cards now will be in here as well, and they'll be tightly integrated with Apple Pay. Maps also get some love here in iOS 9, so if you're searching for something, your food, drinks, and shopping that are nearby just populate on their own. So I can see this being extremely helpful if you're in a new city, or if you just want to pick out a popular place to eat, then it will just congregate that all right there for you, and then you can just navigate straight to it. Finally, Transit gets support here on Apple Maps. Google Maps has had it forever, but now you can get all your transit information right here, so you can see how long it's going to take for you to get from point A to point B, and then you can also ask Siri for some help which I think is a nice inclusion. So speaking of Siri, it is getting some more horsepower here in iOS 9. There's not a whole lot of new things that they announced today in this first beta, but I'm sure that they'll add more commands as the betas rock on and into the final software of iOS 9. So Siri's getting a little bit smarter. It knows the contents of this text message, so when I tell her to remind me of this in a couple of days, she sets the reminder. And if I need to pick up a grocery item before I come home from work, then I can just tell her to remind me to pick this thing up when I get in my car. So that's pretty neat. This next thing is probably my favorite inclusion of iOS 9, and that is using your keyboard as a trackpad in iOS 9. And a lot of people thought this was exclusive to the iPad, but it is not. It works just fine on the iPhone. Just put 2 fingers down, and if you don't lift it up, you can actually just start highlighting right away. And if not, you can just move it around as a cursor. But I can see this being extremely helpful for copy and paste and just moving across big blocks of text. So I really like this inclusion in iOS 9. These next features are exclusive to the iPad, which are great because it takes advantage of that large screen real estate. So the first thing that you will see is called Slide Over. You just swipe to the right and it brings up a separate little tab here, and you can see all of the different apps that are supported. These are native apps only at this time, so not every app is supported, but it's really nice because if you want to just take a look at your calendar real quick and see what's going on for the day, you can check that real quick without leaving the browser, and you can just swipe it back to the right and it's gone. But if you have the iPad Air 2 with 2 GB of RAM, then you're going to be able to do true split screen multitasking. It's just too bad that this is not supported on other iPads at this time. Apple is taking it back to the old school again with picture-in-picture. This only works with the native video app right now, not on anything else, and you can just resize it by pinching and zooming, and you can also move it around and tuck it away and just listen to the audio if you want to, or you can just resize it back to full screen, or you can also just kill it directly from here. So picture-in-picture, I think, is a very cool inclusion. Alright, so one more thing before I go. Looking into the photos and camera settings, I saw a few extra things there. You can actually change the default of your video recording. So here you can go from 720p, 1080p at 30 frames, and now 1080p at 60 frames per second. And if you go back, you can set the record slow-mo rate at 120 frames per second or 240 frames per second. So you can just change how that default records right on your camera app. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this video. Of course I didn't get every feature, but these were the best features that I thought were announced today. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and follow me on Twitter at SuperScientific. I will bring some Watch 2.0 software videos too, so make sure you check those out. And thank you for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.